it mean, right? How is it going to work for me, right? So in the organization, this was the first year that I brought the solar lanterns, right? So you can light your whole house with these solar powered lights, not have to have candles or kerosene lanterns, and if the power goes out, but also solar panels, right? So solar panels to charge your cell phone, or solar panel to charge your radio, or what have you, but it's just a little guy. And my next step is to talk to Grape Solar, who's here locally, of, hey, how can let's work something out for next year.
Yeah,
right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we can continue to move in that self-sufficient, self-supporting way.
What does self-sufficiency mean at a sort of the level of work that you're doing? Like, who's the self? Is this really individual or kind of communal, or
both? Right? I mean, there's one neighborhood that I've learned one lady was like, look, people didn't want to help. They wanted to participate in some level. And she's like, I'll just do it for everybody. And they're like, okay. So she got a box and people started giving her stuff and she just started putting it in the box and everybody knew where the box was and it belonged to the neighborhood and they all bought off on it, right? And so that self-sufficiency was their neighborhood is self-sufficient. They can take care of each other. They've got a plan. They've got resources. And they know what skills everybody has, right? That's mapping your neighborhood. And then to the bigger neighborhoods, the friendly neighborhood has the toolbox project where they have the cache of tools, but then they have disaster preparedness stuff in the back of the shed, the generator and water purification supplies. So they're taking ownership of being prepared as a neighborhood now, right? So some of them are doing it, whereas some of them are just, they want to do it, but they don't know where to start. And just being prepared on your own, right? So you think about the people that are in those assisted living facilities. There are some of them that are really taking charge and doing it for them, for not just for themselves, but for their facility.
Yeah.
So Crescent Living out at the end of Coburg, they have, it's like 4 floors, and they've assigned floor captains, right? And they put supplies at the end of each floor, and then the captain would grab their kit and get their hard hat and their gloves, and they'd go survey their floor after an incident of some kind, make sure everybody was out or everybody was okay. Now they're talking about supplies for themselves, like, do you have enough water? How much water do I need? Here's how much water you need. Where am I going to put it? You got to put it right here. I mean, it's that simple, but you just need someone to be the champion, and they've established a little committee that meets every month, and they're making it work, right? And then further up the road by the River Road is another long-term facility, and this guy, I think it's kind of a high-end one where they all have money, and so he just talks to everybody, and they all just give him money, and so then he bought this giant generator, and now they have this giant, what's it called? One of those big water storage containers on site, right? So they're like, oh, we're fine, we got water, we got fuel, we got a generator, and they're doing it, right?
So in my observations, a lot of the people that I've seen at sort of trainings, at the festivals and outreach events have been that certainly there's a lot of like white middle class. Oftentimes in disasters, the kind of more marginalized populations are the ones that experience it most.
The most impact.
Yes, the most impact. Are there, so in a community that has resources and expendable resources, I could see how it would be relatively straightforward to just kind of purchase the things that they think that would help prepare them.
Right.
Are there efforts to kind of consider marginalized populations and outreach?
There is some stuff so I don't speak Spanish, but my coworker does. So we just hired somebody in emergency management in October of last year, and she's bilingual. And so we get supplies from FEMA in Spanish and Braille, and I sent her to the Central Latino group. I think they have a storefront or something, and I sent her with all of my materials to put on their storefront. And she offered to give them a presentation, and then they said, yes, please. And she went and talked to them about all the supplies, and then the police auditor's office is actually soliciting her to do the same presentation for a an event that they're hosting for the bilingual community to come and listen to her talk.
Yeah.
And so she kind of gets to listen to me talk,
Yeah.
and then she gets to talk in Spanish. And so it's a great thing.
Yeah.
But every opportunity we get, we try to get some of those demographic people. I've done a kit for, what's the word? Build your kid on a budget class, right? I brought in the Master of Food Preserver program and talked about how you can preserve your food and on a budget, right? So go to Winco, buy a bunch of beans, or here's where you can buy this stuff for inexpensive, right? And here's where you can get stuff for free. I did a class on couponing 101, right? There was one lady that was all about couponing, and she's like, if you get this coupon, you can get 100 rolls of toilet paper, right? And she was good about it, right? So being able to focus in on those groups is important. I think that the other group that gets missed is the kids, right? Because they're the ones that are going to be here when we're gone. And the Safety Fest is an event that EPD puts on in the summer for all the incoming kindergartners. Okay. And so we go talk to them. We get little 15-minute windows with 8 groups. 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon for 2 days. And we get to tell them, drop, cover, and hold. But I think there's an opportunity to come back, a 7th or 8th grade window to say, did you know you live in earthquake country? Did you know that, it could be up to 2 weeks? Because you're starting younger, right? But for right now, I'm battling the effort by telling people, do you have children, right? Do you have grandchildren? Are you telling them this? Are you talking to them about it? Are you telling your neighbors, right? Because they don't know if you don't tell them. But we ask all the time when we do presentations, how many of you have heard of Cascadia? And before it was, eye-opening. Oh, only 30%. And it slowly has made its way. About 70% of the room generally now knows that we're looking at a 70% exchange rate, if you will, that they know about the earthquake.
Do you think that's linked to the article that came out a couple of years ago, the New Yorker one?
Yeah, that was exciting, wasn't it? Yeah, my workload tripled. I swear, it was like, what happened here?
I am really interested in the sort of narratives around okay, the science is telling us this earthquake is very likely to happen in the next so many years, just as far as frequency goes. We've had similar narratives around the science of climate change. The science tells us that this is likely to happen based on this data, and yet with climate change, scientists have been ringing that bell for a while. Right. And with the earthquake, with this kind of one article, we have this huge burst of response.
And why?
Why? Right. Do you have any sense in just how people have talked about those things to you? It seems like a lot of the emergency preparedness stuff focuses on the earthquake.
Do you think it's because it's fancy?
I think it's because it's palatable in some ways.
Right, because they've seen it, right? It's hard to envision climate change when you've never seen it.
Yeah,
right?
There's less of a message of responsibility involved. Kind of a critique of how we do things. But I'm answering my own question. What do you think?
I think you're right. I do. I think the impactfulness of weather is what's going to show them. Right? That's what's going to make them believers. I think the generations coming up in the world now, like my daughter and above, they know. They know. Unfortunately, government doesn't know, right? I think that's what's slowing it down. But our children, and like Matt's doing, the work they're doing, they know. You're ruining our world, and I feel for my children, right? And so I try to do my part by lessening my impact, but is the rest of the world doing their part to lessen their impact? No, I don't think so.
How does that feel?
Painful, right? I mean, I've seen Matt cry, right? I mean, he was charged with a mission when working for the city to reduce our emissions to a certain level, right? Our carbon footprint, and he pretty much sat in this room and told us it's never going to happen. We can stop right now, and all the emissions we're contributing, and it's not going to make a dent, right? The damage is done, right? And that's huge. I mean, that's eye-opening. That's a guy that's passionate about what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And, I mean, it's like, what can I do to make it better? Right? How can I make it better for my children? And when you look at So I live where the wildfires were, right? And we got put on a level 2, and we're driving away. And my daughter looks at me and she's like, "Mom, well, if our house burns down, are we going to rebuild? Because it's not going to look the same. And then if you put an earthquake in there, this isn't going to look the